right, the time has come. My final bookshelf tour for a long while. I have just recently, last couple weeks, finished an overhaul, you could say, of my bookshelves. Mainly that's an outgrowth of my Great Books of the World list that I've been making. It's up to about 380 authors slash books if they're anonymous or anthology slash compilations, but I totally changed around what this last shelf looks like, and I wanted to kind of make a before and after, but I was on a roll, so I I just got the after. But anyway, so this starts, I go by birth year of the author, and I put it just strictly in order that way. And so Sid Kuthie's 1908, born in 1908. And so that's where this starts. I think I missed a couple books if you take what I had before and then what I have now, as far as Edvard Kozbek is down there, Carlos Drummond de Andrade is down there, where you won't see in this video, but they're up there too, as far as relatively contemporary authors I highly value. All right, so as you can see there, this Prey, it's a little dirty. It survived the fire. I treated myself to that copy after I made it through my, what would you be calling it? Like transfer initiation to the university I went to. I have Prey in Hungarian. It was miswritten. It said it was the first edition from 1934, but it's the reprint from 1980, but I just kept it anyway. I'm missing St. Orpheus Breviary because that one got too messed up in the fire, and I just haven't replaced it still. João Guimaraes Rosa. I have the original Portuguese that I found locally, and then the Spanish by Angel Crespo. Miss Mackintosh, My Darling, Marguerite Young's poems, a couple other works. Inviting the Muses is her essays and short works, and then Marguerite Young, Our Darling, is a collection of essays by the great Dalkey Archive Press. Jose Lezama Lima, we have Ernesto Sabato, Qian Zhangshu, Malcolm Lowry, and Simone Weil. I should flip that Lezama Lima around, but that's okay. All right, and then 1914, Arno Schmidt is born. So that leads us to this next shelf. I have all the works here that I have of his, except for Evening Edged in Golden Bottom's Dream, which obviously don't fit on this shelf. Sidney Goodsir Smith. Inspired by Hugh MacDiarmid and James Joyce. Very interesting writer. I'm interested in his poetry too, but this is his novel. Juan Rulfo. I was happy to find that the CFE edition, Juan Rulfo, the other day. And then taking word from Andre, got myself a copy of Stefano D'Addago's books. Excited for the translation that's supposed to be coming out at some point down the line. Paul Celan, one of my favorite poets of all time. I basically at one point had memorized Todesfuge in German just from listening to his recording on YouTube so much. Wilson Harris, recommendation from Paperbird. And then my Gaddis set. So Gaddis biography, letters, Fire the Bastards, the recognitions. Excuse me. And then J.R., Carpenter's Gothic, The Rush for Second Place, Frolic of His Own, and Agape Agape. I do have a handful of other editions of Gaddis laying around, but this is my reading copies, you could say. Terra Nostra by Carlos Fuentes. I was able to get a first edition, 1975 Mexican edition. Galaxias by Haroldo do Campos. I was tracking that one for a while, put out by Ugly Duckling. Brazilian modernist text from the 80s. Very, very fascinating. Ursula K. Le Guin's Always Coming Home. I think that's going to be on my to read next. I've been dipping in and out of it, but I really just want to read it at this point. Adonis, great author from our time. Perennial nominee for the Nobel Prize in Literature. Originally from Syria, he's been living in France and then Lebanon again lately, but we're not sure. Thomas Bernhard, Andrei Tarkovsky collected screenplays, except for Andrei Rublev. Andrei Rublev's too long, it fits in its own volume that hasn't been reprinted. All right, then we have Sculpting in Time, and then my McCarthy set. I don't have Outer Dark here. I just gave away a copy because one of my friends wanted to read it, but I have everything else. It's just not all up here, but I do have everything else somewhere. And his most recent books. Then we have Fernando Del Paso. Oops, let me crack open some light. There we go. Fernando Del Paso. I have his first two books in Spanish and then the translation of Palinero de Mexico in English. Leon Forrest, Holding It Down. W.G. Sebald, my two works of his that I've read and really enjoy. Antonio Moresco. Alio Chacol, who translated the works of Christopher Marlowe into Spanish, and then, of course, Attila. I have his other works on my favorite shelf, like his first novel, Vitam Venturi Seculi, and Hilo de Seda. And then Frank Stanford. What About This and The Battlefield Where the Moon Says I Love You. I was also able to get a first edition copy of 2666. Daniel Sala, Miquel de Palol, Mircea Cartarescu, and I was able to meet him in Dallas, and that was amazing. And I got him to sign my copy of Levantul, which is the original Romanian version. And then I just have a stack of Chinese poets. I've been really into that lately, as you might know if you've been following this. And then Evan Dara. And then I see here on my bottom shelf here, I just have some cool stuff. Rudolf Rocker, Being No One, Life Ways of Hunter-Gatherers. Mainly some stuff that's too big to fit anywhere else and just is fascinating. All right, and then we have really what is ostensibly kind of an overflow shelf. So what this shelf is, it's stuff that I didn't want to get rid of yet. Either I've read it and I decided it wasn't one of the greatest authors of all time. You know, of course, my opinion is involved in that determination in this case. Or I haven't read it yet, and I think it might end up in one of the best authors of all time. And then there are some, you know, as like looking here, like Cesare Pavese or Robert Frost, where excuse me, reasonably they could be called one of the best of at least our recent period, but I'm just not confident enough in my own knowledge of them to be able to say that. So that's where that is with some of them. But this is going to be a quicker span because these are, like I said, yeah, kind of an overflow shelf. So that's the first stack. I have all my Fugitives, Southern Agrarians. I have Raintree County, more Wilson Harris, Robert M. Coates, Caroline Gordon, Andrew Little, also affiliated with the Southern Agrarians, the Fugitives. Then I have an edition of the Fugitives, 1922 to 1925. I only let myself keep one John Barth, and that, as you're seeing there, is it. Sawwheat Factor. Hans Henny Jan, Walker Percy, George Meredith. And this stuff is not chronological in the slightest. I just threw stuff where there was space, as you can probably make out by the George Meredith being right next to Walker Percy. And then Joan Maragall, it's a Catalan writer from Fum d'Estampa, which was just acquired by Deep Vellum. They're going to town at Deep Vellum over there. Sonora Babb, I went to read that with Grapes of Wrath. Got some big 1,000-page turn of the century works. Got my 3 late American century masterworks, I guess you could say. Darkenville's Cat, The Tunnel, and Women and Men. And then The Way of Florida, which is getting a reprint, and a series of his essays is getting put out. Russell Persson, so keep an eye out for that. I might, if I remember, I'll put a link to it in the description. It's put out by Junk Books, DZANC. And then we have Miklos Banfi and Upendranath Ashk. All right, then we have my Spanish shelf. We have Bomarzo, Julio Cortázar, José Donoso, Cabrera Infante, Sergio Pitol. And then, got some lesser known ones here in the middle there. And Antagony, I was happy to find that at Wild Detectives in Dallas. And D.H. Lawrence rounding it out. Next shelf. We have Ian Sinclair's Downriver. I'm interested in that. Andre said it was good. I'm always willing to throw that out there. Echo, old buddy Echo, Hopeful Monsters. I'm interested in that one too. Dalkey. B.S. Johnson, Artorias, I made a video on that. Patty Chayefsky, the best screenplay I've ever heard or seen in my life is Network. Philippine novel, Noledo. Leon de Greiff, the great Colombian poet. And here's some old stuff. Dubartas. Coriates Crudities, the guy who introduced the fork to England. Some more contemporary. I just picked up that Ojos Atai, the Waiting for the Fear. And I have good, on good authority that Schrelp likes it, so that's a good sign. It's always a good sign. Next. I only kept one Thomas Pynchon, and as you can see, that was the one I chose. Nick told me that I should keep Against the Day, so I kept Against the Day. I didn't overthink it more than that. Here's some, possibly these are some Patreon books, but as you can tell, I've gotten onto a different trajectory of reading lately. So, yeah, these are some very little known mid to late 20th century American authors. George P. Eliot, Leslie Garrett, who is friends with Cormac McCarthy, and then William Eastlake. Counterfeiters by Hugh Kenner, really interesting book about automation and fakes, obviously counterfeits. Ralph Ellison, Antonio Porta, the only David Foster Wallace I kept, because I grew up in a place very close to where this is set. Magic Door Otto himself, Chris Torrance recommended that. Got another book I already made a video about, Chapman, Mo Yan, and I was able to find Alvaro Mutis, Macro, full set, and Giles and Phineas Fletcher. All right, and this is hard to see down here. I'll just show you these stacks too, why not? This is some of my medieval reading I've been doing lately. Jean Gimple, Life in a Medieval City, Life in a Medieval Village, and then here are some history books that I've kept. I can thank Cyrus for a lot of the stuff at the bottom there. Some other stuff here. Heart of Europe, Heathen Gods and Old English Literature. What's that? El Jardín de las Máquinas Parlantes by La Iseca. All right, and then some down here. Some up-and-coming Mexican authors, if you're interested in contemporary Mexican literature. Mario Sanchez Carvajal, recent Nobel Prize winner Hong Kong, Valery Luiselli. We have Labatut, and then we have some contemporary poets in English that I like, Daniel Popik being the foremost. All right, well, that was a rapid fire speed through all these, and let me know if you're interested in any of these. If you adamantly think I should get rid of any of these on this overflow shelf, like if it's the worst book you've read in your life or it's overhyped, let me know, because these are the ones that maybe in the next 2 to 3 years I want to either have read them or gotten rid of them. So anyway, let me know, and yeah, there'll be more to come, more videos, and Death is a Gang Boss.